Hey guys, so today in this video, I'll be explaining how the business cycle and potential output and actual output and how natural unemployment connects the potential output and long-run aggregate supply. Okay, next slide. Okay, so for the business cycle, what is the business cycle? So it's basically, it represents the short run ups and downs in real GDP over time. So what I have written down here is that the business cycle shows, as I just said, it moves through four main phases, which are expansion, peak, recession, and trough. During expansion, output and employment rise, and at the peak, the economy is at its highest point before slowing down. A recession is a period when GDP kind of falls, and that's when, unemployment would increase. And then finally, the trough, it basically marks the lowest point before the next recovery starts. So remember, the four main phases are expansion, peak, recession, and trough. As for potential output, so this is also called the full employment output. This is the level of real GDP the economy can produce when it's using all of its resources efficiently. Think labor, all of that. At this point, the unemployment is pretty much at its natural rate, which means that only frictional and structural unemployment exist, not cyclical unemployment. Potential GDP doesn't mean zero unemployment. It just means that the economy is producing at a more sustainable, balanced level. So what I have written down here is potential GDP equals output when resources are all used efficiently and it occurs at the natural state of unemployment. Actual versus potential GDP graph. Here we go. The dashed line here represents a potential GDP, the steady level of output the economy can maintain in the long run. Basically, this graph is showing actual GDP and potential GDP over time. And it's when the blue line goes, okay, so when the blue line goes above this potential GDP, the economy is at its expansion. So basically, it means output is high and unemployment is really low, and the inflationary pressure builds up, which is good. When the GDP falls below the potential GDP, as we can see in the middle there, we're in a recession, and this means that output is dropping, unemployment is rising, and the economy produces less than it could at its full employment, which is bad. These fluctuations, basically the movements of actual GDP around potential GDP, it's what creates the business cycle. Okay, so for unemployment and output gaps, the difference between actual and potential GDP, this is the output gap. A positive output gap is when actual GDP is higher than potential, which would lead to inflationary pressure. And then the negative gap means that the actual GDP is below potential, which causes higher unemployment. The relationships between these two, it kind of show how unemployment and output are directly tied into the business cycle. So what I have here is basically like that whole process. So when GDP is above potential, it leads to an inflationary gap, unemployment, which is above natural rate. And then when actual GDP is below potential, it leads to a recessionary gap, unemployment, which are above the natural rate. So kind of to tie this all up, the business cycle shows short run fluctuations in real GDP. Potential GDP represents the economy's full employment output level. The natural rate of unemployment directly connects to potential output. And when GDP moves away from potential GDP, we either get a recessionary gap or an inflationary gap. Understanding this relationship helps us kind of see where the economy is in the cycle and what kind of policy might be needed. Yeah, thanks for watching. I think I'm done recording. How do I stop? Oh.